Hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Look at Hotline Miami 2. Wrong number. Well, 2 is the right number, obviously. It's the second game in the series. First one, obviously, came out back in 2012, I think, and it was an enormous success. It's become one of the premier indie titles when you talk about stuff, from the indie culture that has actually hit kind of critical mass. It's been in a bunch of humble bundles, came out on Vita, it's been part of PS Plus. Everybody knows of it for the most part, and you know whether you like it or you don't. Hotline Miami 2, I've played about 3.5 hours so far. I really liked Hotline Miami 1. I was way late to the party. I only finished it like last year. I played it on Vita actually, and I played a little bit on PC back when it first came out, but it was in an inopportune time for me. So I'm excited that I'm actually around as the sequel's coming out. It's $15. We're gonna start up the game that I've been playing, but I'm not going to play the most recent mission I was doing. Instead, we'll maybe do something from the first act here, and we'll play I don't know, maybe we'll play like the third scene or the second scene. It doesn't really matter here. The game is quite long from what I've heard. I've seen some people tweeting about being on like scene 15, scene 16. So if you look at like Act 1 here where I am, there's 4 scenes. There's 4 scenes there. 4 times, however many acts there are. There might be 5 acts, it's traditional Shakespearean style. I think there's more than 3 acts anyway, unless I'm just particularly amazing at the game. So, for $15, you are getting a fairly decent value, and this is the kind of thing that can be score attacked, can be replayed. Let's start up Mission 2 here. Why not? And we will skip the intro for now just to get into the mechanics, just in case you're somehow unfamiliar with it. But then we'll go deeper into what makes Hotline Miami what it is and what it isn't. However, I just want to point out here, as we get started, there's there's 2 kinds of people who are familiar with Hotline Miami. There's those that are familiar with it and really like it on a mechanical level, or dislike it on a mechanical level, which basically describes me. I always played it as kind of like an action puzzle box type game with twin stick shooter elements that I really liked for its like tight level design, unforgiving gameplay, and kind of frenetic pace that it had to it. And then there's also a narrative aspect to Hotline Miami. What does it mean for games to be violent? And it doesn't matter. Do you need some kind of like reason for games to be violent? Be forewarned, this is a very violent video game, obviously. If you're the kind of person who's not into that, you're probably not going to have a great time over the course of this video. I've always been of the mind that, I didn't really pay attention to what Hotline Miami was doing narratively speaking, which is not to say that it doesn't do interesting things. I think that's more of a matter of opinion. It was rather that I play it mostly for its mechanics, and on a mechanical level, Hotline Miami 2 is doubtlessly a success if you enjoyed the original one. This is basically like, this video can pretty much be summed up in like 2 minutes here. Did you enjoy Hotline Miami 1? If the answer is yes, you will probably enjoy Hotline Miami 2. There is a decent amount of stuff that's actually, oh, come on. There's a decent amount of stuff that actually is different, I'll admit. But we'll get into that. Mostly it's the same old, you enter a building, and as you go through the building, you basically try to murder absolutely everybody with increasingly, violent and gory types of, like, weapon combinations and stuff here. One second, I have to go into keyboard controls and rebind something. It's really got a really cool, like, VHS-style menu here. Lock on. Can we make this, like, Q or something instead? Normally it's scroll, but, oh, no, don't make it escape. Dear God. There we go. Normally I have it on scroll, but my mouse weirdly, like, doesn't work with it. And it's not only a Hotline Miami thing. I think it might be a Game Maker thing. It happens with Game Maker games. Maybe just due to the mouse hardware I'm using. So yeah, if you like Hotline Miami 1, I can think of pretty much no reason to not pick up Hotline Miami 2. Why did you love Hotline Miami 1? Was it the soundtrack? It's still got an amazing soundtrack. Definitely one of the highlights of the game. Let's take this guy out. Did you like it for the fact that it was punishing and unforgiving and difficult, but rewarded not only patience, but also quick reflexes and had this really frantic pace to it? That's still here. And in fact, one of the questions that I've gotten a lot about Hotline Miami 2 so far is, is it as hard as the original one? It's harder. It definitely feels like the game was made as a kind of like a deliberate, oh shit, almost died there. A deliberate reaction to the first one, and the idea that, over the first one, you actually gained a lot of skill, because it basically, like, you don't get stronger over the course of the game, you just get better at the game. The early missions in Hotline Miami 2 are still pretty tough. Now, it does have that kind of a Hotline Miami-y thing going on, where basically, like, oh, I don't want to be there, yep. Where basically, like, after you beat a level, you've kind of solved the puzzle box, I'm not going to say that there's an opportune or an optimal, I should say, way to beat every single level in the game. That was really bad of me. But what I will say is that, you know, once you find kind of like a seam and a path that works for you, it's a lot easier to get through it. But the first time through, when you're coming up with like creative solutions and, you know, I'm gonna pick up this shotgun and then throw it at this guy to knock him out silently and stuff like that, that stuff is still there. And is actually, like I said, I think probably a little bit harder than the original. At least to start with. But that's good. I hate when sequels come out and they, like, maintain the difficulty curve of the first game. And as a result, you end up actually finding it much easier to succeed because you've already got those ingrained skills. Don't... Oh, okay, that should have probably gone wrong. It's also, in case you didn't notice, a pretty difficult game to talk over and play at exactly the same time. You know, it's a... Oh, shit. We got him! It's a game where mechanical skill plays a pretty large role. There we go. And, you know, having focus helps out a lot. I can't believe I got seen there. All right, let's try to do this the old-fashioned way. Guns a-blazing. Admittedly, the AI is pretty exploitable, but anyway. Let's talk about, you know, what you've got at your disposal here. It's got a lot of weapon variety. In this level, it's pretty early, so we're going to see a lot of guns and a lot of, like, basic melee weapons, but you do get more meaningful stuff. Oh, shit. You do get more meaningful stuff as the game progresses. I can't believe that this is actually working. And the thing that actually separates Hotline Miami 2 from its predecessor the most, I think, is the fact that there's very different... Let's try this. I ran out of ammo on my gun. Okay, there we go. There's very different ways to play the game based on which character you are. And you might be saying, well, in the original, you had all those masks, and, you know, the masks really changed the way you played the game. Here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to formulate a plan. We're going to get ready to attack this guy with our lock on, and then we're going to kick the door down when that other guy walks by. Let's see if this plan actually works. Textbook. All right. So, you're not wrong, by the way. There is a lot of variety to the masks in the original game. In this one, though, there's different characters. So there's one character that basically plays the same way that Jacket played, or one type of mission that basically plays the same type of way that Jacket played in Hotline Miami. Oh, so yes, this is the way we're supposed to go. That Jacket played in Hotline Miami 1. You get to choose your masks. There's different kinds of masks. There's one with a dodge roll. There's one with a, you know, deadly punches, but he doesn't get to hold weapons. There's one, which is really cool, where you get to basically... I'm going to skip the story stuff here temporarily. Where you get to play as two characters at the same time, one of which has chainsaws and one of which has pistols. So you can use them as kind of like melee and... ranged attacks at the same time. It's really, really interesting. That changes your playstyle completely. But there's also levels where you play as characters that have to be non-lethal. So let me see if I just exit the game here. We can probably find that mission, although I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember the name of it. But yeah, you have to play as non-lethal characters, and whenever you pick up a weapon, you actually empty it out, which is really interesting, thematically speaking. I don't think it's Final Cut. I actually don't know. Hard News? That's not the one we just did. Let's try this one out. We'll skip the intro as well. So this kind of like variety that you have going on really keeps the game interesting and varied beyond just the masks. Well, this is going to be a mask one. That's fine. We can use a nail gun or lethal throws. Let's go for the nail gun here. I've never actually used this character. I guess I unlocked the mask last time I did this mission. The story, admittedly, is a little bit confusing. By the way, just the last thing on the... There's got to be one up here. Ah! I'm almost dead. There we go. The last thing I want to mention on that is that I've seen some people complain that, like, you know, because it's not simply using the same formula over and over, and that's a loaded way of putting it, but I've seen some people complain that, like, in the first game, you kind of had that variety of masks, and you could choose how to play the game the way you wanted to. In this one, you are kind of forced into some non-variable playstyles from time to time. I kind of like it. I think it keeps the variety high and makes it so that I can't just, like, choose the same type of character every single time, but there will be some people, I think, and I've seen some people in the reviews that have already gone up, being like, kind of lamenting this seeming loss of variety. I don't think it's actually a loss of variety. It's weird, because you're forget the windows there. You're actually adding more variety, but it kind of seems like there's not as much. Did I get him? I don't think I got him. It seems like there's not as much because they take a little bit of player choice away. But I think it's actually a really interesting kind of gameplay choice, and For the most part, honestly, I think it enhances the game by forcing you into different playstyles instead of just being like, oh, I'm gonna play the gun guy with the dodge roll all the time. I think it's interesting. Story-wise, Hotline Miami has always had a little bit of a, you know, well, no, I don't necessarily want to say abstract, but a confusing narrative, deliberately so, in order to kind of, you know, confuse the player character and the player themselves. Ooh, that could have gone bad. In this game, it kind of jumps around. I'm very scared about this room. It jumps around through multiple different time frames. So some of it takes place in the 80s, much like Hotline Miami 1 did, and some of it takes place in the early 1990s. And you jump from character to character, enough so that, you know, maybe halfway, maybe a third of the way through the game, I actually am pretty confused about what's happening in the story. Now, I don't necessarily think that is a bad thing, but at the same time, I do think it is a thing that a lot of people might not know. Whoa, God. Well, and I think it's kind of like a love it or a hate it thing. It's got like that Rashomon type of stuff going on. Floor cleared. We go up again? We probably go up again, yeah. I think it's on me for not really making the prerequisite effort in order to be able to follow the story as it is happening. And if you really paid attention to the dates and stuff like that, then you might find it an easier time. But admittedly, never run out in front of somebody with a gun like that. Admittedly, my main draw in Hotline Miami is not the narrative at all. I know a lot of people have kind of a love-hate relationship with the story that was told in Hotline Miami 1 and what it, the message or the lack of message that it has to say about, violence and, whether we as humans have like a predilection towards enjoying it or whether that even matters. I've mostly, in all of my time with the Hotline... Oh, that was so bad. In all of my time with the Hotline Miami series, I have pretty much just found it like a, that guy's glitching out a little bit. That's alright, we got him. I've mostly just found it like a really mechanically interesting puzzle box with which to kind of like play around. It's basically like a hyper-violent puzzle game to me. I know there's a lot of people that are in that boat with me. If you're that kind of person... Why do I take my time so much on that? If you're that kind of person and you liked Hotline Miami 1 or loved Hotline Miami 1, there's really nothing I can say that should dissuade you from picking up Hotline Miami 2. I'm not going to say it's better or worse than the original. It just feels like more of the same, and I think that's what probably, I mean, at least for me, I shouldn't project on people, but at least for me, I didn't realize you could stab him through the window like that or blunt force trauma him through the window like that. I really thought I'd be able to do it again. It's more the same, and that's really what I was looking for out of the game, to be honest with you. Like, when Hotline Miami 2 was announced, I was pretty much just like, sweet, more Hotline Miami, and here we are. Be careful. Here we are, and that's pretty much what it is. It does have some new ideas that are relatively interesting. I think they're not going to be love it or hate it, but you're going to be for them or against them, which isn't necessarily the same thing. But for the most part, I think this is... I'm surprised to see that there's... Most of the response has been positive, but from what I've played so far, I'm surprised to see some people being quite negative on the game that did enjoy the original, because to me it just feels like it's basically what you would want, It's more Hotline Miami. What do you got from here? Go to car. Alright, well, we'll just walk out then. So, I mean, this is the pretty typical length of a mission in Hotline Miami if you actually know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you can... Well, not just know what you're doing if you're good, I guess. Or you've done it before, you can get through it pretty quickly. But there's been missions that have taken me upwards of a half hour so far. And there were really only a couple of missions like that in the entirety of Hotline Miami 1. So to get in a position where there are missions that are, taking me 20 minutes, 30 minutes right off the bat in this game. I still think I'm in the relative early game. It's surprising, and it, again, I think speaks to the higher difficulty level. So I'm going to cliff notes this because I think I've been rambling a little bit. It's more Hotline Miami. The story seems to have kind of a similar tone and atmosphere to it, but you jump around a little bit. I find it a little bit harder to follow than the original Hotline Miami. That's probably by design. Apart from that, it's more of the same, except on certain missions, you're gated by your character's own abilities. So you have non-lethal characters, you have missions where you're choosing the animal masks like from the first game, and then you have missions like this one where we kind of play as a different set of characters that have the reptile masks, I guess. We can see some story stuff here. Hi there, welcome. What can I help you with? I'd like to get a tattoo. Right, you got anything particular in mind? I want Old Dixie right here on my shoulder. It's like the Confederate flag, isn't it? Okay, sure, let me see here. Maybe it's not the Confederate flag? I don't know. How does next Friday 2 p.m. sound? Friday? What do you mean? You can't do it now? It has to be today. Today's a special occasion. I'm celebrating. Sorry, boss, can't help you. We're all booked for days. Oh, is that so? What kind of business are you running here? You just lost yourself a customer, you Russian asshole. So there's, not all of the characters are particularly mentally sound, perhaps. But it has kind of cool, you know, lampooning of pop culture. Like, obviously, we're on, like, the Ellen DeGeneres show here, with an actor, Martin Brown. And then, you know, I'm just going to skip through some of the dialogue here to avoid spoiling it too much. But things take a darker turn here, and you can see that, you know, basically Jacket has shown up here. It's steeped in this kind of, you know, ambiguity about what the heck is real and what's going on, and there's massacres all over the place, and it's just, I don't want to call it a mess necessarily, but it's a, it's a controlled mess, or a calculated mess, to put it that way. I really like this VHS style screen here. Honestly, I have to be real with you, there's not a lot that I can really say more about Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number. I'm very much looking forward to playing through the entire thing myself. If it sounds like I'm underwhelmed when I'm talking, I'm not. This is exactly what I expected, and to put it succinctly, pretty much exactly what I wanted. Basically, on the mechanical strength of the original game, it's one of the best games of 2015 so far. Again, I haven't fully completed it, but I've been enjoying my time with it immensely. And I think that if you're a fan of the original Hotline Miami, there is a very, very low chance that you'll be disappointed here. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that it's better or worse than the original. Sequels are weird, man, because I think, how do I want to phrase this? I think sequels are both overrated and underrated. Like, Hotline Miami 2 pretty much succeeds by being an iteration on Hotline Miami 1, but I think that people will also, you know, they won't have that same kind of novelty feel to it when they play it for the first time, and as such are maybe a little bit less likely to be overwhelmed, or maybe it's due to having super high expectations or something like that. And that's not to say that this has had a poor reception. It's still doing very well, like critically speaking, and the user reviews are really good as well. But if what you're looking for is more Hotline Miami, you should pick this up. There's pretty much no question about it. If you were looking for something else, or you hated Hotline Miami, or you have a problem with the tone and the content of the game, it is quite violent and, you know, at times even disturbing, then, you know, this might be the kind of thing that's not particularly for you. But if you enjoyed the first game, all of the, like, the checkboxes from the first game are right here. Fantastic soundtrack, cool visuals, mechanically really strong, addictive because even when you die, you know, you just come back to life a minute later, not even a minute, like 4 seconds later, and, you know, it basically a successful run-through of a mission, or at least one particular section, like a checkpoint of a mission, is only going to take you like 45 seconds if you do it right. So it's, in a way, it's almost like a hyper-violent top-down Super Meat Boy, which is a comparison that I don't think makes sense, mechanically speaking, but the way that you feel when you play it is kind of similar. You fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, you succeed. If you didn't play the first time on Miami, there's no reason you can't jump in on this one, but it might be better off for you just to get the first one and play it first because it's cheaper, and see if it's for you. I know it's a game that's not for everyone. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can really say about Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number. I like it a lot. I'm glad that it's out. I understand why some people have a problem with it, and I understand why some people love it. I find myself more in the latter camp as opposed to the former. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you want to pick up Hotline Miami 2 on Steam, there will be a link in the video description below to pick it up. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more first impressions like this in the future. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.